Hey everyone, tonight we're going to try something a little different. I'm taking you way back to medieval Europe. But this isn't some fairy tale kingdom or knight in shining armor fantasy. No, you're waking up on a cold stone floor, ankles shackled, with the smell of mildew in your nose and a rat the size of a chihuahua staring directly into your soul. You're about to experience what it was like to be a prisoner in the Middle Ages. Spoiler alert, you probably won't survive. Between the rats, the dysentery, and the guy 2 cells down who thinks he's a chicken, your odds aren't great. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you really like what I do here. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and what time it is. Now, turn off the lights, maybe turn on the fan for some soothing noise, and let's get started tonight. I wake up to pain, not the sharp kind, but the deep, aching stiffness that tells me I slept wrong on something unforgiving like, say, stone. My hands are numb, my ankles sore, chains rattle with every twitch, and for a second, I think I'm dreaming. Then the smell hits me. Imagine damp socks. Multiply that by 10. Add a generous dash of rotting cabbage, a hint of sewage, and the musty breath of centuries. That's the dungeon air. My gag reflex immediately clocks in for duty. I blink and try to sit up, which is surprisingly hard when one of your legs is shackled to an iron ring in the floor. The chain is short, maybe 2 feet, just enough slack to lie down, and if I'm lucky, turn over without wrenching my ankle. There's light, but barely. A slit high up in the stone wall filters in a single beam of pale blue, cold daylight. The kind of light that says, "Good morning, peasant. Life still sucks." A pile of straw lies beneath me, now thoroughly mashed and rearranged in the shape of my body. No blanket, no pillow. I have no memory of how I got here, just fragmented flashes, shouting torches, the clang of boots on cobblestones. Maybe there was a horse, maybe a priest. I can't be sure. Last clear memory, I was at a tavern, arguing about who invented chess. Some guy insisted it was Vikings. I told him it came from India. Things went downhill from there, a shuffle behind me. I twist awkwardly because turning around is a luxury of the unshackled, and finally see that I'm not alone. 3 other people are crammed into this dungeon cell. One is asleep, one is awake and glaring at me like I just insulted his mother, and the third is sitting against the wall, gently singing something that sounds like a lullaby for worms. Morning, sunshine. The glaring one grunts. He's missing 2 front teeth and has a scar across his forehead that looks like it was drawn by a drunk mapmaker. Where is this? I ask, my voice rasping like it's been dragged across gravel. My tongue feels like sandpaper. A medieval hangover, apparently, is just regular hangover, but with more dysentery. He snorts. Where do you think? You're in the pits. You got hauled in last night, screaming about bishops and camels. Chess, I whisper. Yeah, whatever. He tosses a pebble at the wall, where it pings off and startles the sleeping guy, who promptly lets out a fart, so dramatic it echoes. Great. Just great. Day 1 in medieval prison and I'm in the gas chamber. I try to take stock of what I've got. Clothes, rough woolen tunic, itchy as hell, no shoes, 1 sock, my belt is gone, probably taken. I have a bruise on my shoulder that looks like Italy, and a faint stamp on my forearm that might say property of Baron Ulrich, or maybe Tuesday. The guy humming, he hasn't stopped. Every note is off-key and unsettlingly cheerful. That's Rabbit, glaring guy says, jerking his chin toward him. Talks to ghosts. Don't sit too close. Got it. I rub my face, only to realize my fingers are smeared with grime. Maybe dried blood. Could also be soup. Honestly, in here the difference is academic. You got a name? I ask. Me. They call me Clovis. He smirks. Not the Clovis though. Is that supposed to mean something? He shrugs. You'll learn. Here's a legit fact while we're here. Medieval prisoners didn't usually get sentences the way we think of them today. You didn't serve 5 years and walk free. You rotted until your family paid for your release, or you died, or they forgot you were here entirely. Sometimes all 3. Food comes at dawn, Clovis mutters. If you want it, sit by the bars. Guard throws it in like we're pigs. Is it actual food? Define food. We sit in silence for a moment. The air is heavy, like it's made of old breath. I try to shift and feel the sharp edge of a tiny bone under the straw. I don't ask what kind. You're lucky, really, he says, after a bit. Could have landed in the oubliette. The what now? He grins well, half grins. Oubliette comes from the French oubliette, to forget. It's a pit, no door, just a hole in the ceiling. They drop you in and forget you existed. Oh, I echo. I suddenly feel a lot better about the chains. At least I can see the sky, if I tilt just right. Anyway, Clovis says, lying back down, welcome to your new life. Don't trust the guy in the next cell. Don't drink the water. And don't ever ask Rabbit about frogs. I nod, mostly because I have no energy to argue. Somewhere above, I hear the faint clang of a bell. It's not time yet, but it's coming. The day's just begun, and I'm already deeply regretting not letting that Viking guy win the chess argument. I didn't think it was possible for air to get wetter without actual rain, but congratulations to this dungeon, new record unlocked. The stench somehow intensifies as the day drags forward. I swear the moisture on the walls is alive. Every breath tastes like rust and damp burlap. It's like licking a soggy doormat that's been fermenting under a dead goat. I shift again, chains clinking, and try to sit fully upright. Bad move. My back cracks like firewood. The straw mat under me is now more stink than straw. I take a cautious sniff of my tunic and nearly pass out. Yep, definitely soup, or someone else's soup, digested. Hard to say. Clovis isn't helping the ambience. He's snoring now, mouth open like a broken gate, and he occasionally twitches like he's dodging imaginary arrows. Rabbit, on the other hand, has made friends with a mold patch. I hear him whispering to it. You understand me, he says. Unlike Harold, I don't know who Harold is. I don't want to know. The fourth guy, the one who farted himself awake earlier, is lying, silent in the corner. We haven't spoken. I've decided to call him Flatulence Maximus. He hasn't objected, probably because he's dead asleep. Poor, just dead. I start inspecting the dungeon walls. I figure if I'm stuck here, might as well get familiar. The stones are massive, irregular, and damp to the touch. The mortar between them crumbles slightly if you scratch it. And believe me, medieval mortar isn't known for its architectural integrity. It's more like, hey, we mixed some sand, ash, and goat spit good enough. Tiny scratches mark several of the stones. Not from tools, nails maybe. Teeth. A few are etched with shapes. Circles, a crude cross. What might be tally marks. I count them. Someone made it to 37. That's either 37 days or 37 reasons to cry. And then the rat shows up. You know that moment in every horror movie when you hear something skitter and think, oh, it's just a mouse. And then it turns out to be not just a mouse. Yeah, this rat could wear boots and vote. It lumbers out from under Clovis's straw pile like it owns the place, pauses mid-room and stares at me, full-on eye contact. Its ears twitch. Its nose wiggles. I don't move, neither does it. Clovis snorts awake and catches sight of it. Oh hey, that's Marjorie. She's all right. That rat has a name. Course she does. That's Rat. Queen Marjorie. You give her a crumb, she don't bite your toes. Simple economics. Before I can respond, Marjorie scuttles across the cell, climbs on a rock, and disappears through a crack behind Rabbit. I shudder. Clovis grins. She's got a nest somewhere in the wall. Keeps the real pests away. There are worse pests. You ever seen a weasel high on plague juice? I blink. No. Then count your blessings. Real historical moment here. Rats were absolutely everywhere in medieval prisons. And yes, they did chew on people dead or alive. It's one of the reasons prisoners sometimes slept sitting upright, especially if they were chained, which I am. Delightful. More scratching echoes behind the walls. Different direction. Possibly Marjorie's entourage. Maybe a rival faction. I imagine tiny rodent wars happening all around Mirat politics. Power struggles, cudi, etats, over moldy crusts. Rabbit turns to me suddenly and says, they meet in the east wall. Don't interrupt their meetings. Clovis nods solemnly. He's right. Last guy who did, lost a toe. Rat tribunal ruled it was justified. And this is my life now. I crawl shuffle, rally toward the bars. I'm starving. My stomach is making noises that would terrify a priest. I remember what Clovis said earlier. Sit by the bars if you want food. So I plant myself, cross-legged, and wait. I peer through the bars. The corridor is dim, flickering, with torchlight stone all around. A few other cells line the hallway. I can hear groans and someone coughing violently. One guy 2 doors down is singing what sounds like a drinking song. In German, backwards. Then, footsteps, heavy boots, keys jangling, something metal dragging. The door at the end of the corridor creaks open and in lumbers a figure who is, and I say this with no exaggeration, the physical manifestation of a hangover in human form. The jailer. He's massive. Think barrel-chested with a limp, and arms like tree trunks that have seen things. His tunic is stained with something dark. Might be stew, might be regret. His beard is patchy, and there's a meat hook dangling from his belt. I wish that were metaphorical. It's not. He slams a wooden bucket down outside the first cell, not ours. Slop splashes over the rim. The smell reaches me, and I gag again. Imagine watery oatmeal made with bone broth and a dream of vegetables. That's breakfast. The bucket makes its way to our cell. He doesn't speak, just shoves the thing through a metal slot in the bars. Then he locks eyes with me. His gaze is disappointed, curious, hungry. He snorts and walks away. Clovis is already at the bucket. Hurry, eat before it congeals. There are 3 wooden spoons. I take one, so does Rabbit. Maximus doesn't move. I peer inside. The gruel is grey. I stir at mystic something. Eyeball-shaped bobs to the surface. Nope, just a bean. Probably you'll want to avoid the lumps. Clovis warns. Sometimes they still twitch. I taste a spoonful. It's not the worst thing I've ever eaten. Honestly, it's vaguely edible. Kinda like if sadness had a texture. Rabbit slurps his portion while muttering something about stars aligning. I keep eating. Every bite feels like surrender. But what else am I going to do? Across the hall, someone yells, "Hey, who took my rat?" Clovis shrugs. Prison changes people. And just like that, I'm beginning to understand that this place isn't just about chains and walls. It's about adapting. Fast. The thing about prison food, especially medieval prison food, is that it doesn't fill you. It just reminds you you're not dead yet. I sit there scraping the bottom of the slop bucket, trying not to think about the questionable bean-shaped object I swallowed whole. For all I know, it was a boiled beetle, or someone's lost molar. Honestly, both options feel equally probable. Clovis tosses his spoon back into the bucket like he's done this 1,000 times. He probably has. "Best meal you'll get today," he grunts. I squint at him. "There's more food later." He laughs short, dry, "Not more, just ... again." I lean back, stomach doing uneasy cartwheels, and try to digest. The problem is, there's nothing to do in a dungeon except listen and imagine. Every cough, every shuffle, every drop of water from some unseen leak feels magnified. My brain fills the silence with things I'd rather not picture. Across from me, Rabbit's busy lining up tiny pebbles in neat rows. He gives each one a name: Gregory, Wallace, Saint Mucklebones. How long's he been here? I whisper to Clovis. He wipes his nose on his sleeve. Don't know. Doesn't know himself. Could be years or days. Time folds in here, which, academically speaking, isn't far from what some historians believe. There's ongoing debate about how structured incarceration even was back then. Medieval prisons weren't long-term punishment centers like today, more like holding tanks for people waiting trial, torture, or a family bribe. But if you had no family, ... or no coin, you just stayed. Clovis digs under the straw and pulls out something wrapped in cloth. He peeks inside, a crust of bread. He offers me a corner. Really, I blink. Don't get excited. It's 3 days old and probably cursed. I bite it anyway. My jaw protests. It's like gnawing on furniture. Where'd you get this? I ask. He raises an eyebrow. I have my ways. Before I can press him, a ruckus breaks out. Tassel's down, shouting. Metal slams. A guard yells something unintelligible. Then, silence. A moment later, someone screams, "He took my gruel." A second voice replies, "You ate my sock." There's a scuffle, a distant thud. Something wet hits a wall. Clovis doesn't even flinch. Breakfast disputes. Happens. I look around our own cell. So who decides who eats what here? Clovis shrugs. First come, first chew. But some things are ... understood. Rabbit chimes in without looking up. Last week, Gerald stole my mushroom. Now he only dreams in Latin. I pause. Wait, what? He doesn't speak Latin, Rabbit adds, solemnly. Just dreams it. I nod slowly. Got it. Don't touch Rabbit's mushrooms. Duly noted. Clovis chuckles. Smart man. We lapse into silence again, which gives me too much time to reflect. The stone wall behind me is cold. The chain clinks every time I move my ankle. My back's already sore. I realize my only bathroom option is a wooden bucket in the corner. Communal, of course. Its aroma has started forming a visible aura. I ask, what's the rule on using? That rule is, aim better than Maximus, Clovis says without missing a beat. Rabbit sighs. Last week he missed, we had to live with it. I pull my knees to my chest and groan softly. How do people survive this? Clovis pats the wall like it's an old friend. You adapt. You sleep in bits. You eat what doesn't eat you first. You find something to focus on, like counting bricks or staring contests with spiders. No offense, I mutter, but your coping strategies suck. None taken, he says. You'll develop your own. Probably something weird and shameful. I decide to take his advice and count bricks. Top row has 9, middle has 10, bottom row only 8. One cracked like it was headbutted by a very determined goat. Random medieval trivia pops into my brain, probably a survival instinct. Did you know nobles once used crusty bread as plates, called trenchers? You'd eat the stew off it, then feed the soggy bread to the poorer prisoners, which probably explains the state of this bread. I look at Clovis. You ever get out of here? He raises an eyebrow. You mean, like escape? Or trial? Bail? Whatever they called it in the 14th century. He leans in. Here's the thing. You can leave, but it costs coin, or favors, or limbs. That single quotes as ... ominous. Clovis smiles with no warmth. That's the truth. A bell tolls in the distance. Once, twice, maybe more. I lose count, but it triggers something. Footsteps again. This time faster. Our hallway lights up with torchlight. I scramble to my feet or foot, since one is still chained. The cell doors clang open down the corridor, one after another. Guards yelling. Clovis groans. Inspection time. Inspection. Yeah, they check for weapons, or escape tools, or ... hobbies. They hate hobbies. He flings his bread crust back under the straw. Rabbit hides his pebbles. I panic and do nothing, which is probably what I'm best at so far. The iron door to our cell creaks open. In steps a different guard. Younger, thinner, less barrel, of rage, more angry librarian with a sword. He carries a cudgel. Hands up, he barks. Clovis lifts his eye mimic. Rabbit tries to high-five the air. The guard stomps in, kicks at the straw, rummages through our belongings. He pulls out a sock from Maximus's corner and holds it like it's radioactive. He peers at me. You knew one. Speak. I croak. Love what you've done with the place. Bad move. He whacks the bars with his cudgel, making the whole cell ring like a giant bell. I flinch so hard I almost dislocate regret. Smart mouth, he says. They don't last long. He kicks over the slop bucket, mutters something rude about prisoners, and storms out. The door clangs shut. Clovis sighs. You really should not have said that. I exhale slowly, heart pounding. Yeah, noted. The hallway grows quiet again. The only sound left is the dripping water and a distant scream that may or may not have been joyful. Hard to say lunch soon. Clovis mutters, oh good, or torture. Double quotes ... less good. Rabbit hums a lullaby to his pebbles, and I realize, with an empty stomach and full bladder, that the day is only just begun. I wake up with a rat on my chest, not metaphorically, not in a dream. A literal, furry, whiskered, slightly damp rat is perched on my sternum like it's claiming territory. Its little claws dig into the fabric of my tunic. Its nose twitches. I freeze. Clovis, I whisper. Nothing. Clovis, I whisper louder. He groans from the corner. Is it Marjorie again? She brought a friend. Oh, that's Bernard. He's new. Bernard is on my chest. Don't move. He's asserting dominance. Dominance. Too late. I twitch. Bernard squeaks, launches off me like a cannonball, and disappears into the wall crack where Marjorie vanished earlier. I sit up in a panic, heart racing, trying not to scream. Rabbit claps softly. You've been initiated. I dust myself off. Into what? The Rat Guild, Rabbit says solemnly. It's not official until one pees on you. I pat myself down and immediately regret it. Yep, initiated. It's not even midday. Do they bite? I ask. Not if you respect the hierarchy, Clovis mutters. He's not joking. Apparently the rats run things in here. There's a pecking order, a chain of command, And according to Clovis, a rat who once negotiated a ceasefire between two feuding prisoners by delivering them both a piece of boiled potato. I give him a look, swear on my last toenail. He says, lifting a very bare foot, "Here's your off-topic fact of the day. Rats are actually highly intelligent creatures. Scientists have taught them to play hide and seek. Some can even laugh. No joke, real research. So the idea that they have some shadowy underworld inside this prison, honestly, not the craziest thing I've heard this week. Do they steal food?" I ask. "They tax food," Clovis corrects me. "Leave a crust, they take 10%. Try to cheat, they nibble your ear." Just then, a faint scritch echoes from the stone behind me. "They're listening," Rabbit whispers. I decide to offer a piece of crust as tribute, just in case. Moments later, Maximus finally stirs. He hasn't moved much since yesterday, and I was starting to worry he was a medieval statue carved from sausage and regret. But no, he's alive and cranky. "Did someone touch my sock?" he croaks. The sock in question is lying stiffly in the corner, practically fossilized. "No," Clovis lies. Maximus mutters something unintelligible and rolls over. I look at Clovis. Does anyone ever get out of here without bribery or a noble bloodline? Sometimes, he says, if they're lucky. Or useful. Useful. How? Spies, informants, amusing jugglers. One guy did shadow puppets. The warden liked him, moved him to a better cell. With a window, my jaw drops. There are better cells. Oh yeah, this is the starter pack. You work your way up. I sit in silence for a moment, contemplating my bleak promotion ladder. Then the cell door creaks open and the jailer returns, dragging a wooden pole with a hook at the end. We all freeze. He doesn't say a word, just points the hook at Clovis. Clovis grunts. "Slop duty," the jailer grunts. The hook doesn't waver. "What's slop duty?" I ask. "You'll see," Clovis mutters. He stands, stretches, and limps to the door. The jailer unlocks it and shoves the hook toward him again like he's herding cattle. Rabbit leans in close to me and says, "Sometimes he comes back clean. Sometimes ... not. Great. 10 minutes pass, then 20. Then 30. Eventually, Clovis returns. He smells worse than before, which I didn't think was chemically possible, and he's drenched from the knees down. He drops to the floor with a thud and wipes his face with a rag I hope isn't his shirt. While I ask. He exhales. "Latrine duty, communal pits. Oh no. Oh yes. A giant stone hole behind the south wall. 10 buckets. 1 rope. 2 rats fell in. Did you save them? They saved themselves. Smart little monsters." My stomach churns, not just from the smell, but from the sheer horror of the image. A room full of ... everything. Centuries of everything sloshing, bubbling, possibly sentient. Rabbit offers Clovis a single mint leaf. Clovis eats it like it's a roast chicken. "You get paid for that?" I ask. Clovis stares at me blankly. "Paid or rewarded?" He holds up a crust of bread, slightly fresher. Luxury. I sigh and lean back against the wall. The stones feel colder now. Or maybe my spirit is just trying to leave my body. A spider descends from the ceiling on a single thread. We lock eyes. It's the most understanding creature I've seen since arriving. It climbs back up. Probably realized I'm not worth the trouble. I glance around at my cellmate's Rabbit, humming a tune with no melody. Clovis half napping in his stench. Maximus, still nursing his sock. Tremand, I realize something strange. I don't hate them, sure. They smell like boiled tragedy and occasionally mutter things like the onions are watching. But they single quotes read ... company. The kind of company that makes you feel less alone in the worst place imaginable. A faint breeze blows through the vent near the ceiling. It carries with it the scent of firewood, and maybe just maybe a whiff of outside. I close my eyes. Try to imagine a real bed, clean sheets, a bath, but all that feels like someone else's life. Right now, this is mine, chains and all. The door groans open again. Not like before this time. It moans long and low, like the stone itself is tired of keeping secrets. Heavy boots slap against the damp floor outside our cell, and the torchlight flickers as someone big fills the hallway. He's early, Clovis mutters, not even looking up. Who? I ask. The jailer, but we've already seen him today. Clovis shifts, then opens one eye. That wasn't him. That was Kevin. Kevin, I blink. The guard with the cudgel. Yep, Kevin's just mean. This guy. He's the reason rats pray. That's when I hear it. The unmistakable jangle of keys, not just a handful, a dozen, clanking together like metallic wind chimes of doom. Then a sniff, a deep, wet, unsettling sniff that says, I smell fear, and possibly soup. A shadow looms. Rabbit hides his pebble collection under the straw and whispers, don't look him in the eyes. They're backwards, just ... Trust me. The figure steps into view. I feel the air grow heavier. The torches dim slightly, as if even fire doesn't want to get too close. He's enormous, not fat, just built like a cathedral. Shoulders like siege towers, a face like a poorly drawn map, scarred and sunburnt and permanently furrowed. His beard looks like it's been chewed on by something bigger than him. He wears a thick leather apron smeared with something dark. Could be soot, could be blood, could be regret mixed with barbecue sauce. The keys dangle from his waist, swaying as he moves. But the scariest part isn't the keys, it's the silence. He doesn't say a word, just stares at me. I try not to blink. I blink. He steps closer. Clovis mutters under his breath, don't flinch. He likes flinches. Too late. I twitch. Instinct, survival, terror, call it what you want. My face definitely does a full body shiver. He stops right outside our bars and reaches into his apron pocket. I brace for something unspeakable. He pulls. Oh, Ute spoon. A bent, jagged, twisted metal spoon. The kind of spoon you'd use to dig your way out of prison or into someone's spleen. He holds it up and sniffs it, then grunts. Contraband, Rabbit gasps. Clovis sighs. Here we go. The jailer unlocks the door. The whole cell falls into hush mode. He steps inside, barely fitting, and tosses the spoon at the ground. You know the rules, he says in a voice so deep it rattles my sternum. No tools, no weapons, no spoons. Technically, Rabbit says, it's a spork. Clovis kicks him in the shin. The jailer points at me. My mouth dries instantly. I didn't. That's not. I just got here. He steps closer, so near I can see crumbs in his beard. His breath is warm and smells like garlic and vengeance. New meat. He growls. Fresh, Rabbit whispers. Silent, Clovis warns. Nod, rapidly. He crouches, knees crack like boulders splitting. Name, he says. You can call me ... Chess guy. Clovis facepalms. The jailer narrows his eyes. Chess. He sniffs me again, uncomfortably close. Then just as I'm about to either faint or confess to crimes I didn't commit, he stands. He takes the spoon, pockets it, and walks out. No threats, no beatings, just that haunting spoon-confiscating silence. The door slams shut behind him. Did I pass? I croak. Clovis exhales. You didn't die, so ... Yeah. Who was that? Call him the Iron Shepherd. He watches the flock, keeps us in line, occasionally removes someone. Yeah. One day, poof gone, I look at Rabbit. Where do they go? Rabbit whispers, the chair. Oh no, you mean like a chair. The chair, Clovis confirms. Iron, spiky, heated. I gulp. And the spoon. That's your warning, he says. Next time, he won't just take the spoon. Great, I've been marked. Day 3 in prison and I'm already on the Iron Man's radar because of a misshapen utensil. In an actual medieval context, he's not far off. They did use things like the iron chair, a horrific contraption with spikes and sometimes even built-in heating mechanisms. It was used to force confessions or just to remind people that no one in charge had hobbies. My body still hums from the adrenaline dump. We sit in silence, just listening to the sounds outside. Dripping water, distant. Moans the occasional scritch of rats. Then Clovis says, you've been chosen. For what? Watch duty. He nods toward a slot in the wall I hadn't noticed before. It's barely bigger than a brick, set between the lower stones of the wall. Just a dark square. I crawl over. What is it? A peephole. Don't want to pee through it. Not that kind. Clovis groans. A look-through hole. You watch the hallway. Report anything interesting. I peer through. It's angled just right so you can see the far end of the corridor. There's a torch, a wooden bench, and something carved into the opposite wall. Letters scratched into the stone. I squint. It says, he who listens escapes. My pulse quickens. Hey, I whisper. There's writing here. Clovis shrugs. Yeah, everyone sees that eventually. Does it mean anything? Maybe it's a lie. Maybe someone just got really bored. But don't obsess, he says. That's how people crack. I keep staring. He who listens escapes. Could mean anything, or everything. Behind me, Rabbit giggles softly and says, the rats, no more than they say. And I realize something bone-deep. This prison isn't just stone and chains. It's a game. A terrible, smelly, rat-infested game. And now I'm playing. The worst part isn't the smell. Okay, that's a lie. The smell is the worst part. But the second worst part, realizing it's your turn to carry the latrine bucket, Clovis announces it like it's an honor. Congratulations, he says, tossing me a splintery wooden pole with a hook at the end. You've been selected for royal slop relocation. Wait me. I grip the pole like it might sprout legs and flee. Didn't you just do it yesterday? He stretches and yawns. Rotation, everyone gets a turn, builds character, and knows capaces. I look at Rabbit, who's using a spoon to conduct an invisible orchestra of beetles. Surely he should go before me. Rabbit doesn't even look up. I was excused by the order of the sacred fungus. Clovis nods. Religious exemption. Sorry, chess guy, it's your time. Aye, the slop bucket in the corner, the one we all pretend isn't there. It's filled with ... you know. Things best left unmentioned. Things that have stewed for at least a week. Based on the sheer force of the smell trying to escape, I swallow my dignity and grab the bucket handle. The jailer arrives 5 minutes later without a word, opens the door and jerks his thumb down the hallway. That's it. No guidance. No watch your step. Just a grunt and a threat wrapped in a beard. So I go. The hall is narrow, and the torchlight makes the shadows move like they're whispering bets on how fast I'll vomit. The bucket sloshes with every step. I hold it as far from my body as the chain on my ankle allows, but the smell follows me like a loyal, horrible dog. We reach the latrine pit. It's more of a chamber, really. A deep, open well cut into the stone. Steam rises from it. Yes, steam in a place that's cold enough to see your breath. The pit is warm. I immediately regret everything about my life. A rope dangles nearby, tied to a hook embedded in the ceiling, apparently for lowering or lifting buckets, or prisoners. Hard to say, just dump it. The jailer grunts. I hesitate, he glares. I dump it. The splash echoes like a cruel punchline, and then I gag. A full-body heaving gag that feels like I'm trying to invert my soul. The jailer snorts and hands me another empty bucket. This one is for gathering the next round of donations from cells further down. Great. By the third bucket, my eyes are watering. By the fifth, I'm no longer human. By the 10th, I am the bucket. You know that thing where you detach from reality to cope? Like when your brain just packs a tiny bag and goes somewhere tropical, while your body deals with the trauma. Yeah, I do that. I'm on a beach. There's a coconut, a seagull named Harold. We don't speak of this moment. Eventually, I return. To the cell. Rabbit greets me with a leaf. For the stench, he offers. I take it. It smells like despair, but at least it's a different flavor of despair. Clovis gives me a proud nod. You've earned your stripes. You've been baptized. In what regret soup, exactly? I collapse onto the straw, not even caring that it now clings to me like I'm one of them. One of the dungeon dwellers. The filth faithful. I hate it here, I mutter. Everyone does, Clovis replies. Even the rats. They have meetings about it. I close my eyes. Try to block it out. Here's your history nugget. Medieval sanitation was a suggestion at best. Most castles and prisons had cesspits, essentially open holes into which waste was dumped. Some had rudimentary drainage systems. Others relied on gravity and prayers. Disease was rampant. Dysentery, typhoid, and other delights thrived. People didn't understand bacteria. They blamed smells, sin, or an angry wind spirit. And now I understand it in a way no textbook ever taught. Rabbit hums a tune. Maximus coughs himself awake and groans. Who fouled the air? Your ancestors. Clovis answers. Time passes. The stink remains. My stomach protests every inhale, but I can't argue with biology. I still have to eat. So when the second meal arrives, I'm honestly kind of excited, even knowing what it is. The guard Kevin again slides the slop in with more force than necessary. A bit splashes onto the stone. Clovis rushes for it, like it's a spilled potion of youth. Today's offering is ... beige, with something floating. It looks like a distant cousin of the first gruel, but chunkier. I poke it. Clovis shrugs. Mystery meat. Rabbit whispers. It used to squeak. I take a bite. It's single quotes, edible, just barely. Texture like mashed regret, flavor like damp wood chips. But hey, nutrition, right? Does it get better? I ask. Clovis burps. Depends what you mean by better. Sometimes there's a bone, like a real bone. Yeah, bone is calcium. As we eat, a faint noise echoes down the hall. Distant screams. Not panicked dash, just ... Resigned ... Rabbit pauses, tilting his head. Iron chair again. Clovis grunts. Someone must have talked. My spoon hovers mid-air. Talked. He nods. They interrogate folks sometimes. Ask about heresy, plots, bad-mouthing the king's hat. Anything. That's a thing. His hat's controversial. Big feather. I blink. Here's a fun, weird historical fact. King John of England once claimed that the weather was rebelling against him. Medieval monarchs could be ... eccentric. One king in Germany supposedly outlawed shoes with pointy toes. Power makes people weird. I finish my meal in silence. Then I sit back and stare at the ceiling. It's cracked. There's a spider web shaped like a lopsided star. I name it Trevor. Trevor, the dungeon star. I'm beginning to understand why people in here start talking to the walls. Eventually, Rabbit breaks the silence. Want to play a game? What kind of game? Guess how many pebbles I've named. I pause. 27. Wrong. They all have the same name. I squint. What name? Justice. Clovis groans. Please, not this again. Rabbit smiles, eerily serene. One day, justice will rise. I lie back down. The cell darkens as the sun moves behind clouds. What little of it we see ... somewhere. A bell rings, and I think to myself ... At least I'm not on latrine duty tomorrow. The strangest part about prison life isn't the rats, the food, or even the whole occasional torture thing. It's how fast you get used to it. I've been here, I don't know, 4 days, 5. The days blur. Time isn't measured by clocks anymore. It's measured in spoonfuls of slop and the frequency of unidentifiable odors. I'm lying on my side, using my arm as a pillow. It's numb, so is my back. So is my will to live, if I'm being honest. Rabbit is humming again. It's a new tune, slightly less murdery. Clovis is twirling a pebble between his fingers, looking unusually contemplative. All right, he says. Finally, let's do something stupid. Stupider than surviving off rat-taxed porridge. I mumble. We're telling stories. Oh no. Yes, he insists. Dungeon stories. Why we're here. Who we were. It's tradition. I thought tradition was getting dysentery and naming our fleas. That's phase 2, Rabbit says seriously. Clovis sits up, cracks his neck, and begins like a bard with trauma. I was once a merchant. Fine silks, spices. I even traded with the Moors. Fancy, I say yep. Had a stall in 3 cities, and a girlfriend in 4. Math's a little off. Don't interrupt. Anyway, one day I get accused of shorting a nobleman on saffron. I swear I didn't. He says I did. I say prove it. He says I'll just have you arrested instead. Boom. Now I'm here. Over saffron. It was very good, saffron. He leans back, satisfied. Rabbit goes next, unprompted. I was a monk, he says. At least I think I was. Or maybe I just borrowed a robe. Either way, I ended up on the wrong side of a monastery wall after a rather passionate theological disagreement involving chickens, wine, and an alchemical manuscript. That's specific. He nods. The chickens one. I turn to Maximus, who just growls and mutters something about a goat and a misunderstanding. Fair. Clovis elbows me. Your turn, new blood. I sigh. Fine. I was at a tavern, arguing with a guy about who invented chess. He said Vikings. I said India. He headbutted me. I threw a pint. Next thing I know, I'm in chains. Clovis whistles. All that over. A board game. Not just any board game, I protest. The board game. Rabbit claps politely. You're one of us now. Here's your history fact for today. Chess was introduced to Europe from India via the Islamic world. It spread like wildfire among the nobility during the medieval period, and people took it very seriously. Like, do le Varan opening. Move seriously. Some historians even argue it was a symbol of aristocratic virtue. Others say it just gave bored nobles a socially acceptable way to argue for hours. We sit in silence for a while, the stories hanging in the air like incense made of failure. Then, Clovis says, "Want to hear about the guy who got locked up for inventing a clock? You're lying. I'm not. He made a mechanical sundial that worked indoors. People called it witchcraft, I mean. That does sound suspicious. He was blind in one eye and could count seconds by heart. I hate how much I believe you. Clovis shrugs. This place is full of weirdos. He gestures toward the far wall. See those scratches? I nod. Each one's a story. One guy said he could talk to birds. One swore he saw the Pope in a potato. Another thought he was St. George reincarnated. What happened to them? They're gone. Gone. As in, either promoted, executed, or enlightened. Couldn't tell you which. Rabbit, ads, or they escaped through the soup tunnel. Please don't explain what that means. He doesn't. We sit for a while longer. Then Clovis reaches into his straw bed and pulls out a dirty, crumpled playing card, the Queen of Spades. He says, "Only thing I kept. You play cards." "Not anymore. I use her as a bookmark." "For what?" He shrugs. "Memories." That's when we hear it. A faint scream, far off, echoing through the stone. Everyone freezes. Chair again. Ask. "No," Clovis says, his voice low. "That's from the upper levels. The noble cells." "Yep." I shiver. Prison hierarchy is real. Even in here, there are levels. The deeper you are, the worse it is. But nobles, they get beds, fireplaces, bread with butter. And yet somehow, someone up there is screaming like their soul got turned inside. Out. Rabbit mumbles. "Justice is close." "Don't start," Clovis warns. But I'm already wondering, who's up there? Why are they screaming? And why do I suddenly feel like we're all standing on thin, cracking ice? A rat darts past, carrying what looks like a toothpick sword, probably nothing. The night begins to settle in, torchlight dims, the sounds fade. But I'm not ready to sleep yet. Instead, I stare at the wall. "Do you ever think about escaping?" I whisper. Clovis doesn't answer. Rabbit does. "All the time," he says, "but the door's not the way." "What is?" He smiles faintly. "The wall that listens." My skin prickles. "You mean the peephole?" "I mean what's behind it." We sit in the dark, the silence thick with unasked questions, and I realize, as I drift toward uneasy sleep, that stories in this place aren't just entertainment, they're maps. Maybe someone left a path. I wake up to whispers. Not the usual mumbling from Rabbit or Clovis, sleep-talking about overpriced saffron. No, this is different. It's coming from outside the cello, urgent, echoing. Two voices. Neither of them belong to Kevin or the Iron Shepherd. One is panicked. The other is ... calm. Too calm. Clovis sits up before I even ask. "You hear that?" I whisper. He nods. Someone's being questioned. Up here, in the chapel chamber. Small room, stone walls, big iron chair. "Oh no." "Yes," Rabbit whispers from the dark. The iron chair speaks again. I shift closer to the bars, peering down the corridor. I can't see anything, just flickers of torchlight. The whispering continues. Then, a sudden, metallic screech like rusted iron dragged across stone. It cuts through the silence like a blade through cloth. My skin crawls. "Is that the chair?" Clovis confirms grimly. "You hear that squeal? That's the back hinge. It never got oiled." I swallow. "What is the iron chair?" He leans closer. "Imagine a throne made of nails, all sticking out. You get tied to it, slowly, carefully, just enough pressure to let you feel every point. Then they light a fire. Underneath." "Nope." I pull back. "No thank you, I'm good." Rabbit hums something that sounds suspiciously like a Gregorian chant. "The fire's not always lit," Clovis adds. "Sometimes they just let you sit there, hours, days, until your brain starts melting before your skin ever does." I grip my knees. My mouth is dry. What did the guy do? Could be stealing a bishop's wine. Could be ... nothing. They use it to send a message. A scream echoes again. Louder this time. Not blood-curdling, not panicked, just ... exhausted, broken, like someone who's lost their last pleas. It reverberates down the stone like a memory. We sit in silence for a long time after that. Eventually, Clovis speaks again, softer this time. "It's not about punishment, it's about control. You keep people scared. They don't ask questions. They don't organize. They don't hope." "That's pretty bleak," I say. He chuckles. "Welcome to prison. Here's a real historical fact. The iron chair was an actual torture device used in parts of medieval Europe. While variations existed, they were typically made of iron and covered with spikes. Victims could be tied down for hours or even days. Sometimes a fire was lit underneath, but often the psychological torture alone was enough to break a person. It was a Tula message in pain, and that message just got delivered. Loud and clear. After a while, Rabbit finally says they'll bring him back, or what's left. That happens, I ask. Sometimes. Clovis nods, and then we listen. For what? Their last words, their regrets, their secrets. I glance around the cell. That's morbid. Everything here is morbid, he says. You want cheerful? Join a monastery, Rabbit snorts. They whipped me for dancing. You danced? I ask. With the abbot's cat, he says seriously. I open my mouth, close it, move on. The whispers return, fainter this time. I press my ear to the wall, trying to make out the words. Just fragments. Confess your brother, the seal, please. It's not clear, but it's human, raw. That alone makes it hard to ignore. And then, the corridor door creaks open. Footsteps, 2 pairs, dragging, scramble to the peephole. A man is being carried. 1 guard on each side. His feet scrape the ground, bare, bloody. His hair's matted. He's barely conscious. His face, I can't see it clearly, but something glints in his hand. A ring. Gold. With a seal, a noble, I whisper. See, Clovis says, even titles don't protect you. The guards shove him into a cell across the hall, slam the door. One of them wipes his hand on his tunic and mutters, hope he signed. Then they're gone. Silence again. I sit back, heart still racing. That was the iron chair. That was real. Not just some rumor whispered in the dark. It exists. And it just got closer. Clovis starts scratching a tally into the stone with a chipped spoon. What's that for? I ask, counting screams. You're joking, half joking. I try to sleep, but the echo of that chair that's replaying in my head, like an awful lullaby. Eventually, Rabbit speaks again. Do you think they'll put us in it? I don't answer, because I don't know. And the worst part, it's not even the screaming, it's the waiting. The door creaks again. This time, it's not the grinding, angry shriek of iron dragging open. It's slower, more deliberate, a hesitant hinge, a cough, the quiet shuffle of soft steps on stone. Clovis raises his head. Oh good, he mutters. It's sermon time. I blink. What? Rabbit immediately sits up straighter and crosses his legs, as if attending a royal banquet hosted by invisible toads. Then he appears, at friar. Real robes, sandals, a wooden cross hanging from a frayed cord. He carries a satchel, bulging with what I can only assume is either moldy bread or spiritual guilt. His tonsured head shines under the flickering torchlight round and suspiciously egg-like. He stops in front of our cell, looks at us through the bars, and smiles. It's the kind of smile you give someone right before handing them a pamphlet about eternal damnation. Brothers, he says, peace be upon your troubled souls. Clovis leans against the wall and groans. Brother Malric back again. The friar nods cheerfully. Every week, like the sunrise doesn't lecture us about sin. Malric clasps his hands. Ah, but sin is the cloud that darkens the dawn of redemption. Rabbit gasps softly. Poetic, I whisper to Clovis. He comes here often, too often. He thinks we're spiritual mulch, waiting to be raked. Brother Malric unlocks a small flap in the door and slips a scroll through it. I've brought writings from St. Euphronius today, he announces, and a stale bun. The bun is optional. The words are not. I pick up the scroll. The parchment is cracked, the ink fading. I catch a sentence. Only in the mire does the lotus bloom. That's actually not bad. Did St. Euphronius really write that? I ask. No idea, Malric replies. But it sounds holy, doesn't it? He kneels just outside the cell, opens his satchel, and begins pulling out small wooden tokens, shaped like cross as he hands one to each of us through the flap. This is for your repentance, he says. Keep it close. In moments of weakness, grip it. Let it remind you that your suffering has meaning. Clovis immediately uses his to scratch his back. Malric sighs. Brother Clovis, you mock what you do not understand. Clovis shrugs. I mock everything. It's how I survive. Rabbit holds his token above his head and mutters an incantation, or possibly a recipe. I study mine. It's smooth, worn. Someone's carved initials into the back. TH, maybe a previous owner. Maybe someone who once hoped it meant something. Do you ever actually help anyone get out of here? I ask. Brother Malric blinks. Spiritually, yes. Physically, not so much. He opens a book and begins reading a passage aloud. It's about temptation and worms, and one guy who stole a goose and was cursed with hiccups until he recited the book of Psalms in reverse. I can't tell if it's metaphorical or just very medieval. Real historical fact here. Medieval friars often visited prisoners just for conversion or confession, but also to report on their conditions to the church or local lords. Some even smuggled messages or news. Others, well, they were just there to hand out guilt with a side of stale bread. After the reading, Melrick stands. Any confessions today? Clovis gestures to Rabbit. He once blessed a mushroom and tried to marry it. Rabbit beams. It said yes. Malric clears his throat. A serious confession. Perhaps I think for a moment. Then I say, I once told someone I hated turnips, but I don't. I just wanted more carrots. Malric stares at me. That is deeply Clovis laughs. Malric sighs, gathering his things. Your souls are stubborn as frost, but I will not give up. Even the coldest soil hides seeds. Rabbit nods solemnly, and occasionally eels. Malric gives us one final pitying glance, then turns to leave Dot as he walks away. He pauses and leans toward our door. For what it's worth, he says quietly, you're not forgotten. Not all of you. Someone out there still asks about you. And then he's gone. We sit in silence for a long time. Clovis eventually breaks it. He says that to everyone. But what if it's true? I ask. Rabbit places his token gently on the floor and whispers to it. He means you, probably. Clovis just closes his eyes, and I can't help but hold the token tighter, even if it's nonsense. It feels like something. Hope, maybe, or the faint memory of it. It's the middle of the night when the shouting starts. At first, it's distant like a dream someone else is having. A slam, then a yell, then another, and another. A rising tide of boots on stone, keys rattling, men yelling over each other, echoes bouncing down the corridor like angry ghosts. Clovis is already awake, sitting up like he never sleeps. He cocks his head to the side, listening. Uh-oh, he says, not even trying to hide the glee in his voice. I blink the sleep from my eyes. What's happening? Shakedown, he says. They're doing a sweep. Rabbit is curled, up in his straw like a sleeping monk. Hide the cheese, he mutters. I sit up. Wait, what do we have to hide? Clovis pulls a threadbare cloth from under his tunic and quickly wraps something inside it. Everything. You have something. He grins. Several somethings. I look around the cell, which until this moment seemed offensively bare. Now, it suddenly looks full of secrets. A chipped spoon in the corner. Rabbit's carefully arranged pebble family. The tiny knot in the wall I never noticed before. Every one of them screams contraband. The footsteps get closer. A voice barks. Stand back from the bars. Clovis stuffs the bundle under the straw and stands. Rabbit raises one finger, then rearranges his pebbles so they spell calm. I try to look innocent, which is difficult when your last bath was. Sometime during the fall of Constantinople. Kevin appears, of course, holding a cudgel behind him, two new guards both bulkier than necessary. One is already cracking his knuckles, which is basically a medieval mating call for I hope you resist. Cell 14, Kevin growls, open it. The Iron Shepherd's keyring jingles. The door swings wide, all of you, against the wall. We comply. I try to seem like the kind of prisoner who's never done anything wrong in his life. Clovis does not. The guards storm in and begin tearing the place apart. Straw goes flying, blankets flipped, stones tapped and poked. One guard kicks over Rabbit's pebble altar. Rabbit gasps audibly, like someone just insulted his grandmother and his pet eel in the same sentence. Respect the stones, he says in a soft, deadly tone. Kevin grabs Maximus's sock and sniffs it, then immediately throws it away with a gag. Even he has limits. Then one of the guards finds it. Oi, he shouts. Got something. He holds up a wrapped bundle. Clovis exhales like someone just read his obituary out loud. Kevin unwraps it. Inside, a sharpened spoon, bent and blackened at the tip. It looks like it could barely cut butter, but it could be used to scratch through stone if one had 1,000 years and no sanity left. Kevin squints. What's this? Letter opener, Clovis says without missing a beat. Very popular among literate peasants. The guard narrows his eyes. Trying to escape, trying to read. Clovis shrugs. Kevin gestures to the Iron Shepherd. Put him in the stocks. Tomorrow. The shepherd doesn't speak. just nods. Clovis doesn't flinch, doesn't beg, just sighs like someone who expected this. I liked that spoon, he says quietly. They finish the search. Nothing else is found at least nothing they care about. Rabbit's pebbles are scattered, but safe. My secret crust, don't judge me, goes unnoticed under a corner of stone. Kevin spits on the floor and slams the door shut behind them. We hear them move on to the next cell. Another set of shouts, a crash, a scream, then silence again. Clovis sinks down against the wall, rubbing his wrists. Stockade, he mutters. For how long, I ask. Depends. Could be a day, could be a week. Outside, yeah, middle of the yard. Everyone gets to throw stuff at you. If they're feeling generous, it's just insults. If they're not, it's turnips. Fresh ones. He snorts. You wish. Here's your history fact. Public humiliation was a standard part of punishment. In medieval Europe, the stocks, those wooden contraptions that clamped your wrists and ankles, were used to shame prisoners and let townsfolk have their say. It wasn't just a spectacle. It was a message. Break the rules, and everyone gets a piece of you. Rabbit gathers his scattered pebbles and whispers apologies to each one. Was it worth it? I ask Clovis after a while. The spoon, he shrugs. I was close to breaking. Through the back wall. Really? No, he admits. But it gave me something to do. I nod slowly. Yeah, I get that. I lie down again, my head resting on my arm. The cell smells like damp fury. There's straw in my shirt, and my heart's still pounding. Thanks for not ratting me out, Clovis says quietly. Of course, Rabbit adds. The stones remember kindness. I sigh, and the guards remember everything else. The cell falls quiet again. But now, there's a tension in the air. A shift. The guards are watching more closely. The walls have ears. And tomorrow, Clovis will be in the yard, exposed, which means ... Maybe it's time I start watching more closely too. The bell tolls just after dawn, not the usual bell, the deep, rumbling one that signals a change of shift or a meal of beige sadness. No, this one is slower, heavier, the kind of bell that doesn't care who you are, what you did, or how many times you kissed your mother goodbye. Clovis stiffens. Rabbit covers his ears with straw. Execution bell, he whispers. I sit up. Someone's being executed. Clovis nods without looking at me. Today's the day. Do we know who? We never know. That's the point. We sit in silence. The toll echoes again and again. 12 times in total. 12 tolls. That's the signal that could mean a thief, a heretic, a deserter. Someone who looked at the wrong noble the wrong way, on the wrong day with the wrong face. Doesn't really matter. The outcome's the same. The axe. I stand and move to the bars, peering through the dim corridor toward the light filtering in from the stairwell. I can't see much, but I can hear boots marching, a crowd above, muffled but restless. The square's already filling up. I imagine the villagers shuffling in with their bread and children, whispering, pointing, kids on shoulders. Someone probably brought a pie. Medieval justice, come for the violence, stay for the baked goods. Clovis finally speaks. It's not just a punishment, it's a warning. They bring out one poor soul every week, make a show of it, keeps the townsfolk scared. He's not wrong. Public executions were major events, social gatherings even, markets set up around them. People bought sweets, drank beer, cheered, sometimes jeered, sometimes threw things. In medieval England, hanging days were a family affair. Think it'll be someone from the noble cells? I ask. Doubt it, Clovis replies, unless someone ran out of gold, or favor, or both. Rabbit starts humming again, but it's a low, eerie melody this time, like something you'd hear drifting across a foggy lake just before a ghost ship appears. Then footsteps. Not guards. These are smaller, quicker, lighter boots. A page, maybe. A boy, no older than 14, appears at the far end of the corridor, holding a rolled scroll. He walks quickly, passing each cell, glancing in with the eyes of someone trying not to see anything. He stops at ours. Message, he says quickly, for Clovis of Drelth. Clovis looks up sharply. That's me. The boy shoves the scroll through the bars and bolts back the way he came. Clovis unrolls it. The parchment crackles. I can't read it from here, but I watch his face. He goes still. His jaw clenches. What is it? I ask. He folds it and tucks it into the waistband of his trousers. Nothing really. That nothing just turned your face into a thundercloud. Clovis doesn't answer. Rabbit whispers, was it about the chair? No, Clovis says finally, not the chair. He leans back against the wall. Someone I knew. Gone now. I nod, not pressing. In here, grief is private. You don't talk about the outside unless you want to bleed inside. A few minutes later, a sound floats down the hallway. Drums, not war drums, ceremony drums. Slow, rhythmic, pounding like a heartbeat in reverse. Clovis stands and walks to the bars beside me. We peer out together, and then we hear it. The cheer, distant but clear. The crowd just saw something. Then silence, then the muffled voice of a herald or priest, too far to make out the words, but I know the pattern. A list of crimes, a brief prayer, a request for final words. Then the drums again, and finally, the roar, a unified sound from 100 throats. The axe has fallen, and somewhere, someone is no longer anyone. Rabbit mutters, justice has been fed. I stare down the corridor. My stomach twists, not from fear. Not exactly, but from the nearness of it. Whoever they were close, just walls and floors away. One wrong word, one unlucky moment, one unpaid detend. That could have been me. The cell feels tighter now, like the air is clinging to me, like the shadows are watching. Clovis turns away. Let's not talk for a while. We don't instead. I sit and think. I think about how fragile the line is between being a prisoner and being a ghost. Between breathing and being remembered only as a name on a scroll, or not at all. I remember a historical tidbit that seems cruelly fitting. In some medieval towns, they'd leave the executed bodies hanging for days, not to honor them, to warn others, to say, this is what happens when you forget who has the power. Eventually, the bell tolls once more, not 12 times, just once, a period, an ending. The sound echoes through the dungeon like the final breath of someone you never met but somehow knew. Clovis lies back down without a word. Rabbit arranges his pebbles in a perfect circle. I stare at the wall and whisper, that could have been any of us. Nobody argues. It starts with a squeak. Not a rat squeak though, let's be honest. Those are constant but a human one. High-pitched, nasal, and panicked. Give it back, that was mine. We all perk up. Rabbit tilts his head, tuning in like a bat. Clovis mutters, looks like the underground market's open. I shuffle to the bars with him. Down the corridor, 2 prisoners in the next cell are grappling over what looks like cheese. Yep, a hunk of off-white semi-grumbling cheese wrapped in a linen scrap. One man has it clutched to his chest like a newborn. The other is tugging at his sleeve, trying to snatch it. It was my turn. The second man whines. You snored through your turn. You didn't wake me. I nudged you twice. Clovis sighs. The dairy war resumes. I blink. Wait, there's a cheese racket in here. He nods like it's the most natural thing in the world. Smuggled cheese, traded through the guards. Mostly. Sometimes a friar if you catch him on a guilt high. 1 wedge gets you clean water. 2 gets you privacy. 3 gets you hope. Rabbit adds, holding up 3 fingers dramatically. I watch as the man hoarding the cheese finally lets the other guy have a nibble, grumbling the entire time. They sit side by side, chewing like kings. Clovis sighs. I once traded half a crust for a bite. Sharp cheddar. Best mistake of my life. Why was it a mistake? Because then I knew what I was missing. It's weird how cheese can suddenly feel like gold. In this place, anything remotely flavorful or textured becomes currency. Even moldy crumbs. Especially moldy crumbs. And the cheese economy. It's alive and well. Who runs it? I ask. Clovis leans in like he's telling me a state secret. The Mole Father. No, yes, Rabbit confirms, whispering. He lives 3 cells down. Keeps his stash behind a loose stone. We think he's blind, but he smells lies. You're messing with me. Clovis deadpans. Do I look like I joke about cheese? Honestly, no. He looks like a man who has suffered for dairy. Here's a fun, real historical fact. Cheese was actually a staple in many medieval diets, especially among the poor. Hard cheeses lasted longer, didn't spoil easily, and were easier to store than meat. Prisoners in some regions were even allowed bread and cheese as basic rations, which, I have to admit, sounds romantic until you realize it was often black bread and cheese, so hard you could play horseshoes with it. I'd settle back onto the straw. So what's our cell's economy, I ask. Clovis thinks. Rabbit provides entertainment. I provide security and ration negotiations. Maximus offers atmospheric contributions. The sock emits a gentle, sour tang, as if to prove his point. And me, you're new, he says. So you're the wild card, the potential. Great, I mutter. Love being a mysterious variable in a system of sewage and stolen cheese. Rabbit hands me a pebble. This one is named Trade. I stare at it. Why? Because it wants to leave you for a better deal. Later that day, Kevin stops by the cell for his usual grumpy inspection, except this time, he sniffs. Then he squints at Rabbit. What's that smell? Hope. Rabbit answers without blinking. Kevin grunts and keeps walking. Clovis smirks. That means someone bribed him, probably Moldfather, keeping him docile. Wouldn't the guards be punished for smuggling? Depends who catches them, and how good the cheese is. That night, I dream of a wedge of brie shaped like a key. I try to bite it, but it unlocks a door instead. Then the door opens, and behind it is Rabbit dressed as a monk, whispering, "Justice." Is aged 12 months. I wake up hungry. Clovis has already started bartering. He trades a story about the Iron Shepherd's illegitimate child for 2 licks of cheese rind, which he then resells to Maximus for a crust. That's unethical. I say that's business. Rabbit whispers. The cheese flows through him. By the end of the day, Clovis is sitting on a throne made of extra straw, nibbling crumbs like a lord. Rabbit has acquired a broken comb. Maximus is snoring with a slightly fuller belly. Me. I sit and stare at the peephole, wondering if he who listens escapes also accepts dairy-based bribes, because in this place, anything is possible, even a black market made entirely of cheese. I don't know what day it is anymore. The dungeon doesn't deal in dates, it deals in conditions. Today, my condition is awful. I wake up shivering, teeth chattering like tiny, judgmental castanets. My head feels like it's been stuffed with hot stones. My joints ache. My skin feels tight, like someone shrank it in the wash and sewed it back on while blindfolded. Clovis, I whisper. I think I'm dying. He doesn't even look up. You've got dungeon flu. Dungeon flu. Yeah, everyone gets it eventually. You sweat it out, or don't. Rabbit appears beside me like a phantom. He places a damp cloth, probably a sock, on my forehead. The fever reveals your true self. Pretty sure my true self is mucus, I mutter. Here's a cheerful historical fact. Prisons were breeding grounds for disease. Without sanitation, sunlight, or airflow, illnesses passed from prisoner to prisoner like gossip at a royal banquet. Typhus, scurvy, and dysentery were common. Dungeon fever wasn't an official diagnosis, but it was a very real experience. My throat feels like I gargled gravel. My stomach is turning somersaults, and my whole body aches as if I've been cursed by a very enthusiastic witch. I lie there, sweating. Chills come and go like impatient ghosts. The worst part, the hallucinations. It starts small. I think I see Marjorie the rat wearing a tiny helmet. Then the wall begins breathing. Not metaphorically, it inhales and then exhales. The stones pulse gently, like they've got lungs. I blink, and the wall stops, as if caught in the act. I'm seeing things, I whisper. Rabbit leans close. What kind of things? Did your pebbles just sing a sea shanty? He nods solemnly. They do that when a new fever breaks out. Clovis tosses a scrap of fabric at me. Wrap up and stay still. Don't fight the visions. Just let M roll through you. Is this how you got through it? No, he says. I nearly died, but my fever gave me investment advice. Did you follow it? Only the first part. That's why I'm in here. I moan and turn over. The floor is no cooler than the air. I press my cheek to the stone anyway, hoping it'll absorb some of the fire in my skin. It does not. I drift in and out. At one point, I dream I'm dancing with the Iron Shepherd. He wears a velvet cape and insists I call him Captain Custard. The music is a harpsichord solo being played by a goat in a bishop's hat. Then I'm flying, but not really. Just hovering in my body while my body isn't doing well. Classic fever detachment. A hand presses against my forehead. Warm, human. Rabbit. You're burning, he says. Thanks, I rasp. I feel like a candle made of shame. Here, he offers. Lick this mushroom. Absolutely not. Suit yourself. I must pass out again, because the next thing I remember is waking to the sound of Clovis arguing with someone at the bars. I don't care how fresh it is. We're not trading for that. He needs water, not a sock with a potato in it. Kevin's voice replies, suit yourself. Moments later, a sloshing cup is shoved through the flap. Clovis holds it to my lips. Sip. It tastes like tears and rust. I drink it anyway. Somewhere down the hall, someone coughs. Deep, wet, like a death rattle playing in reverse. Clovis grimaces. Flues making the rounds. How do you know? He points to the floor. No more rats. He's right. Marjorie and her council haven't been seen all day. They know. They always know. Rabbit takes out one of his pebbles. This one's named Quarantine. I drift again. I see visions, flashbacks, maybe premonitions, a garden, my mother's voice, laughter, chessboards with living pieces, a knight made of bread, a pawn who wins the game by crying. I wake with a jolt. My shirt is soaked. My breath, shallow, but the fever has broken. Clovis nods. You made it. I think I licked the wall at one point. That's part of the ritual. How long was I out? 2 days. 2. He shrugs. Time is a myth here. Rabbit lays a leaf on my chest. Welcome back. I glance around. Maximus is still snoring. The cheese economy continues without me. The rats have returned. I'm alive. Barely, but alive. Clovis grins. Next time, maybe avoid the dungeon soup. That was soup. He winks. I don't ask. They open the door at midday. Not our cell door, just the outer gate. The groan of heavy hinges swings out across the dungeon, followed by the sharp bark of an unfamiliar voice. Yard time. Clovis sits up so fast he pulls something in his back. That's us. Yard, I say, blinking. There's a yard. Of course there's a yard, he says, already brushing straw off his tunic. Where else would they put the stocks and the sad dogs? Wait, real dogs? No, metaphorical dogs. Prisoner types, you'll see. Kevin appears with a key ring and a face like he's been forced to give up his cheese bribes for Lent. He opens our cell, and for the first time since I arrived, the hallway becomes an opportunity. Out, he grunts. We shuffle out in single file, chains clinking, eyes blinking in the dim corridor light. The air smells like mildew and disappointment, but also adly hope. Or maybe that's just the scent of mold with a better PR team. We followed the guards up a spiral staircase, the stones worn smooth from centuries of reluctant foot traffic. I count the steps, lose track at 37, regret trying by 30-8. Then light, real light, blinding, unfiltered, sunlight. I stop walking and just feel it for a second. That warm golden glow soaking into my skin like a bomb. It's not even bright by normal standards, just overcast daylight, but to us, it may as well be heaven. Clovis squints. Careful. You stare at it too long. It'll start making promises. The yard is smaller than I imagined, walled in by high stone barriers, dirt underfoot, no grass, just packed soil and the occasional stubborn weed clinging to life like the rest of us. Wooden stocks sit at one end, a bucket beside them for throwing things. Charming. A rusted iron cage sits near the wall, currently empty, hopefully, and prisoners, about 24 of us, men and women, all shapes and smells. Some huddled in corners, others walking slow laps, like monks meditating under threat of shiv. There's a circle of rocks in the center, ritualistic. Maybe, or maybe just where people stand when they want to yell at each other. Rabbit spreads his arms. The garden, he says, with a weird sense of reverence. I blink. Garden. It's a metaphor. Clovis points toward a crooked tree in one corner, leaning like it's ashamed to be here. That's Basil. He's been trying to climb out for 5 years. I look. Basil is a wiry man in his 40s. He's clinging to the wall with a shoe on each hand, whispering encouragement to a pigeon. Don't stare too long, Clovis warns. He bites. A guard unlocks my ankle shackle so I can shuffle freer. I don't know what to do with the movement. The ground is dry. The air tastes like sky and smoke. I inhale greedily, even though there's the faint whiff of manure and regret. I look up. No ceiling. For the first time in days, weeks. I can see clouds. I nearly cry. Clovis walks a slow circle and cracks his neck. Stretch, move, or just sit and sunbake. We get maybe an hour. I find a spot near the wall and sit. Not too close to anyone, just close enough to see everyone. Rabbit wanders off to commune with a clump of moss. He claims it once gave him a riddle in a dream. Clovis sits beside me, his eyes scanning the yard. What are we looking for? I ask. Signs, weak walls, loose stones, people with nothing to lose. He nods toward a woman sitting by herself, sharpening a stick with what looks like a spoon handle. She's a philosopher. Clovis says. Wants to start a society after the breakout. Very into bylaws, of course. A tall man with a tattoo of a dragon wrapped around his neck paces near the gate. His eyes dart. He mutters under his breath, "Who's that?" "That's Fennec. He used to be a royal falconer." "Really?" "No, but he says it with enough confidence that people believe him." We sit in silence for a while. I let the sun do its work, warming my scalp, soothing my fever-worn bones. For a moment, I don't feel like a prisoner. I feel like a very dirty person at a very bad spa. Clovis nudges me. "Look there." I follow his gaze to the far wall. A message etched into the stone with what looks like a nail. "Dig not where they watch." I look back at him. He nods. More of that escape stuff. Messages show up all the time. Do you believe them? He shrugs. Don't have to believe them. Just have to be curious. Another real historical note. Medieval prisons had yards or courtyards where inmates were occasionally allowed fresh air, sometimes under supervision, sometimes as part of labor duty. Exercise wasn't for health, it was to keep you manageable. A tired prisoner is a quiet prisoner. Across the yard, a scuffle breaks out over a piece of bread. Two guards intervene with sticks and casual violence. The bread ends up in the dirt. No one eats it. The sun shifts. A bell rings. Kevin reappears. Back in line. Our hour is up. Clovis stands and brushes himself off. "Well," he says, "that was invigorating. Can we come back tomorrow, if we're lucky?" As we shuffle back down the steps, the sun fades behind clouds. Back to darkness. Back to damp dot. But as I glance over my shoulder one last time at the grey sky and crumbling walls, I feel something shift. Hope, maybe. Or maybe just the memory of clouds. But in here, that's enough. They throw him in like a sack of potatoes. The door slams. The key clanks. And just like that, there's a fifth body in our already too crowded cell. He lands hard, groaning as his fine-looking cloak folds beneath him in a crumpled heap. Not wool, not burlap. Velvet. Deep blue. Edged with silver trim, now smeared with dungeon goo. Fancy boots, now scuffed. A golden pin on his collar clearly removed from a more dignified setting than this one. Clovis raises an eyebrow. "Oh, great, a peacock." The man groans and rolls over, revealing a face with more jawline than common sense. His hair is disheveled, but clearly once cared for. His eyes open blue, sharp, and very, very confused. "What is this place?" he asks, blinking as though someone's about to hand him a monogrammed apology. "You're in paradise," Clovis replies flatly. "The steam baths are over there, and the foot massages run hourly. Welcome. Is this ... the holding cell?" The man asks. "Technically, yes," I offer, "if you define holding as being chained to rocks and fed." Grey mush. He sits up slowly, brushing invisible lint from his cloak like dignity might reappear if he smooths it hard enough. "I demand a private cell." Clovis snorts. "So did the guy before you." He now shares a wall with a bucket. Rabbit leans in, sniffing dramatically. He smells of almonds and poor decisions. Maximus grunts in his corner. "Who are you?" I ask, more curious than annoyed, though the cell is getting claustrophobic. The man puffs up. "Sir Ulrich of Norwayne, Knight of the Fifth Banner, Lord Commander of the Western March." Clovis raises a slow eyebrow. "Ah, so nobody important." "Sir," Ulrich bristles. "I was wrongly accused." Rabbit whispers. "They all say that." Of what, I ask. He straightens. "Of treason." We all pause. "Real treason?" Clovis asks. "Or like, I call the king's beard uneven treason." Ulrich hesitates. May have insinuated his steed was more intelligent than his steward. "That's fair," Clovis mutters. "But then, I wrote a satire." Ulrich adds. "Ah," I nod. The fatal step. Here's your historical nugget. Nobles weren't immune to prison, but their cells were often significantly better private. Chambers, windows, even furniture. But if a noble offended the crown, especially publicly, they could be tossed in with the rest of us. The deeper the insult, the deeper the dungeon. Sir Ulrich finally notices the ambience, the mold, the straw, the communal slop bucketant visibly wilts. "Good news," Clovis says. "We offer a welcome package." Ulrich perks up. "Really?" "Sure." He hands him a small grimy spoon. "Your ceremonial utensil. Use it for meals, defense, and spiritual reflection." Ulrich accepts it like it might bite him. Rabbit offers a pebble. "This one's named Regret. It's yours now." I lean back against the wall and sigh. "So, how long you here for?" "I expect release by tomorrow." Ulrich says confidently. My family will pay the ransom. Clovis chuckles. Hope you like waiting. What do you mean? No one rushes for dungeon folk, he says. Ransom or not, you get forgotten faster than a soup fart. Ulrich blinks. I nod. I've been here, ... days, weeks. Hard to tell. Still waiting for someone to remember I'm not a villain. You're all innocent then? Ulrich asks, with the wide-eyed hope of someone who still believes in things like truth and fair trials. Oh, I definitely threw that pint, I say. But in my defense, he insulted the Queen's gambit. Rabbit raises a hand. I married a fungus. Clovis just shrugs. I sold fake saffron. Maximus snores in agreement. With something, Ulrich sighs and sits beside me, clutching his velvet cloak like a safety blanket. This can't be happening. It is, I say. And tomorrow, you'll get a bowl of mush and an invitation to Rat Court. He blinks. Rat, ... Court. You'll see. Time passes strangely when there's a new person in the mix. Suddenly, we're all alert watching how he eats, how he reacts, what jokes he laughs at. He tries to maintain his nightly composure, but it crumbles after the second spoonful of dinner gruel. What is this? He asks. Mystery mush. Clovis replies. Now, with 20% more mystery. Ulrich gags. You'll get used to it, I say, or you'll stop caring. Later, as we settle into our respective damp corners, Ulrich lies on his cloak like it's a barrier between him and the truth. You think I'll be here long? He asks. Clovis doesn't answer. Rabbit whispers. You'll be here exactly as long as you're forgotten. That night, we all sleep differently. Maximus snorts less. Clovis mumbles about saffron prices. Rabbit hums a lullaby to the pebbles. And me, I stare at the ceiling, wondering if Ulrich's presence changes the balance of things. New blood, new leverage, or maybe ... just maybe ... the start of a plan. It starts with a whisper. Well, technically, it starts with Sir Ulrich mumbling in his sleep. Something about honor, buttons, and more lemon in the pheasant glaze. Mother. But what really gets my attention is the scratching. Not the rat kind though. Marjorie and her gang are back to their nightly chaos, but a steady, deliberate scratch coming from the far wall. I sit up. Clovis notices. You hear it? Yeah, I whisper. Where's it coming from? He jerks his chin toward the left corner, behind Rabbit's pebbles. I crawl over, careful not to disturb the sacred arrangement. Rabbit watches with one eye open, muttering, careful with trade and regret. They don't like being stepped on. I crouch and place my ear to the wall. Scratch, scratch, pause, then again scratch. Is it a rat? I ask. Nope. Clovis says. Listen closer. I do. And then I realize it's rhythmic, not frantic, not animal, measured, purposeful. I whisper. That's code. Clovis nods. Took me weeks to figure that out. Who is it? Someone on the other side. Could be another cell. Could be a tunnel. No idea. But they've been scratching messages every few nights. What does it say? Clovis leans in. 3 scratches. Pause. 2 scratches. Long pause. Then 5. That doesn't tell me anything. It's a cipher, or a signal, or both. He reaches into his straw bedding and pulls out a shard of bone flat, sharp-edged, almost like a chalk stick. He's carved symbols into the floor. Tally marks. Rows of scratch patterns. You've been tracking this, I say, impressed. Been here long enough. Gotta do something besides rehearse my confession monologue. Here's a curious historical fact. Secret messages in prisons weren't uncommon. From carved marks in the walls to hidden letters in laundry. Prisoners, especially political or noble ones, found ways to communicate. Some even used rhythmic tapping like early Morse code to pass along plans, warnings, or hope. I lean in again. The pattern repeats. 325. What if it's letters? I say like, be, dois. Clovis shakes his head. I tried. That doesn't line up, but it's something. Rabbit suddenly perks up. Ask it something. I blink. What? Ask it a question. How? Rabbit hands me a tiny nail. Scratch back. Clovis looks skeptical, but shrugs. Couldn't. Hurt. I hesitate, then scratch. 2 short, 1 long dot. Pause, then 3 short. Clovis frowns. What's that supposed to mean? I don't know, I whisper. I panicked. We wait. Nothing. Then. Faintly scratch. Rabbit gasps. A response. Or they're mocking me. Same thing, Clovis mutters. But I feel it. That tingle at the base of my skull. Like the wall just moved. Not physically, just energetically. Someone's back there. Could it be someone digging, I ask, trying to escape? Maybe, Clovis says, maybe they already escaped. Maybe it's just someone who didn't get out and kept scratching anyway. That's bleak. This is a dungeon. We sit in silence for a moment, processing that dot. Then Sir Alric speaks up. Maybe it's a clue. Clovis snorts. You think everything is a clue. It is, Alric insists. There are marks on the floor over there. Someone etched directions. Sure, that was just Maximus counting his burps. I mutter. Ulrich crawls to the corner and starts inspecting the stones. I've been in cells before, he says. Not as a prisoner, as a well visitor, of course. And I've seen how prisoners leave signs for each other. Scratches, symbols, hidden messages. Clovis looks up. What did you find? Ulrich runs his hand along the mortar, then stops. Here, he presses a finger to a spot where the mortar feels thinner, flaky. I dig at it. With the nail dot, it gives way. Behind the crumbling mortar, there's a smooth stone slab, and carved into it a symbol, a spiral, rough, but deliberate. Clovis whispers, that's new. Rabbit stares, that's old. What does it mean? I ask. It's a meeting point, Rabbit whispers. From the old stories, a mark of refuge, or passage. You're making that up, Clovis says. Am I? We stare at it. The spiral sits in silence. It doesn't glow, it doesn't whisper, but it feels ... intentional. Then we hear it again. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Pause. Scratch, scratch. Pause. Scratch, 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 scratch. 325. I whisper. It's been repeating that for days, Clovis mutters. But maybe it's not code, I say. Maybe it's instructions. Rabbits, eyes widen, dig at the third stone. Then the second. Then 5 from the left. Clovis scoffs. That's a stretch. Is it? We start counting. Clovis begins loosening the third floor stone. Then the second. On the 5th, something happens. A click, and then a grind. A small square of stone about the size of a book shifts slightly. We stare at it. Clovis looks at me. You found something. I didn't find anything, I say. The wall told us. We wedge it open. Inside, a scrap of cloth, wrapped tight. Clovis unwraps it slowly. Inside, a strip of parchment, faded writing, barely legible, but we can make out a single line. The way out begins where light does not touch. Sir Alric exhales. It's a map. No, I whisper. It's a message. Rabbit adds. A promise. We sit there, huddled around the fragile parchment like monks around a sacred text. The cell hasn't changed. The smell hasn't changed. But we have. Something's shifted. Hope is a dangerous thing. In a dungeon. But right now it's all we've got. The jailer has a secret. I know this because I watched him slip through the dungeon corridor late at night. Torch unlit, boots soft. He stopped outside, cell 9, the one with the guy who hums to Bricksand past something through the bars. Number, shouting, no threats, just a quiet nod. Then he left, alone, unaccompanied. No other guards, no Kevin with his cudgel. Just the Iron Shepherd, walking like a shadow. I didn't even mean to see it. I'd woken up thirsty, throat still dry from the dungeon flu, and was sitting by the bars trying to catch droplets of condensation from the wall. Dignity is a myth in here, and there he was, slipping through the shadows, offering something wrapped in cloth. Clovis notices me watching the door later that morning. You saw something, he says flatly. Maybe, I reply. He lowers his voice. Shepherd, I nod. Was it cheese? Wrapped cloth? He whistles. Could be anything. Could be bribes, could be letters, could be help, I say. Clovis frowns. That man doesn't do help. Maybe he's got layers. He's not a turnip. He's a hammer with eyebrows. Still, the idea sticks with me. That night, I wait again. I pretend to sleep. Slow breaths, loose limbs, just one eye half open, and there he is. Same hour, same silent steps. He pauses outside our cell this time. I freeze. He looks through the bars, right at me, and then he speaks. You didn't see anything. His voice is soft, gravelly, like someone who once yelled a lot, but has since run out of reasons to bother. I didn't, I whisper. He nods once, then slides a piece of folded parchment through the food flap and walks away. I stare at it. Rabbit sits up slowly, wide-eyed. What is that? I unfold it inside. A map, crude, hand-drawn, no labels, just hallways, arrows, and a Marcan X in. The far corner of what I assume is the outer yard wall. Below it, one sentence. Tuesday, after bell, don't follow the guards, follow the water. Clovis peers over my shoulder. That's Shepard's handwriting. You've seen it before. He nods. He used to mark the punishment records. Same angry loops. Why would he help? Maybe he's had enough. Clovis muttered. Maybe he wants out too. But he's the jailer. Even jailers are prisoners of something. That hits harder than I expect. We hide the map under a stone near the spiral symbol. No one touches it, but everyone knows. For the next 2 days, we watch him. The Iron Shepherd does his rounds like always. Expression flat, beard untamed. He yells when he needs to. But there's something different now. A pause, a flicker, a twitch at the corner of his eye that says, "You're looking too closely." Sir Ulrich notices. "Too. You're planning something," he says, arms crossed. "No, I lie." Then why is Clovis suddenly bathing respect? Clovis grunts, scrubbing, with a rag. "If I'm going to escape, I want to do it smelling like less than utter doom." Here's a curious but true historical fact. There are records of jailers in medieval times turning coat. Some were bribed, others were blackmailed. A few even fell in love with prisoners. In one notable case, a jailer smuggled out an accused heretic in a laundry cart after hearing his sermons. People are messy, even the ones with keys. By Tuesday, we're ready. If that's even what ready means in this place, the plan is simple. Or, well, vague. We follow the yard rotation like normal. Shuffle out when the bell rings. Walk to the same patch of dirt we always do. Pretend we're still broken. But instead of standing near the circle or fighting over sunlit corners, we drift closer to the wall. The wall with the drainage spout, the one we all assumed was just for runoff. Now, it's our compass. After the guards do their count and turn their backs, we wait, and then the Iron Shepherd appears. He doesn't say a word, just drops a small wooden crate near the spout, coughs loudly, and walks away. Inside the crate, a pry bar, a flask of oil, and a half-eaten roll. Rabbit whispers, a sacred trinity. Clovis grabs the pry bar and gets to work. The spout is rusted shut, but it was never meant to be permanent. It opens just enough for a small person or a very desperate one to wriggle through. Who goes first? I ask Dot. They all look at me. Course, I squeeze in, twisting sideways, dirt in my mouth, stone against my back. The tunnel is tight, smells like damp rot and rat burps. I crawl until the light behind me fades, and another light faint grey, promising appears ahead. Then, I'm out, into a small chamber, old, forgotten, cobwebs and crumbling stone, but dry. A ladder leans against the far wall, leading up to a hatch. They follow one by one. Ulrich, Clovis, Rabbit, even Maximus, groaning like an ogre with back pain. We're together, and we're out of the dungeon. Not free, not yet, but out. And the Iron Shepherd, he never came. Didn't have to. He already left something more valuable than a key, a choice. And now we have one. There's something hilarious about planning your escape from a medieval prison using a toothbrush. OK-. Not an actual toothbrush, more like a bone splinter wrapped in cloth with a frayed end. But in here, we call it a toothbrush because cell-chiseled pokey stick doesn't roll off the tongue. Clovis named it Gerald, so here we are, in the dry chamber behind the drainage spout, sitting in a circle with Gerald at the center like he's some kind of artifact of legend. Gerald, Clovis says solemnly, is our chisel, our key, and probably our doom. Ulrich frowns. That's not a chisel. That's a dental suggestion. He's more than he appears, Rabbit murmurs. I pressed my hand against the wall at the far end of the room. The hatch above us leads somewhere we think to an old guard station, maybe even the outer wall. But the problem, the hatch is rusted, shut, bolted from the other side. We need to go lower. Beneath the chamber, there's a loose stone slab, just enough space to maybe dig. It's sandstone, Clovis says, kneeling beside it, soft enough to cut through over time. How much time, I ask. Depends how hard we dig and how quiet we are, which is where Gerald comes in. We take turns. Clovis starts. Scrapes. The sound is somehow louder in the silence, like a bone scraping a skull. Rabbit hums to mask it, which somehow makes it worse. I can't believe we're doing this, Ulrich mutters, rubbing his temple. I was supposed to command a battalion this spring. I was supposed to beat an innkeeper at chess. I reply. Dreams die hard, Clovis says, scraping away. We establish a rotation. 2 people digging, 1 keeping watch, 1 sleeping, 1 whispering encouragements to the stones. Thanks, Rabbit. Here's a historical fact to chew on. Prisoners really did dig their way out of jails. Some used spoon handles, chamber pot shards, or even sharpened bread crusts, hardened by time. In one case, a group of 18th century inmates escaped by spending 7 years chiseling with stolen nails. So really, we're ahead of schedule. Every day we dig deeper, the tunnel grows by inches. We reinforce it with scrap wood, broken broom handles, anything we can sneak in from the yard. We wrap our wrists in cloth to keep the friction blisters from splitting. Gerald dulls but still digs at night. We return to our cell like nothing's changed. It's part of the plan. Rotate shifts, avoid suspicion, blend in. The shepherd doesn't visit again, but we hear whispers. Other prisoners mention a noise in the stone, a strange draft, the mold shifting. Rumors start to swirl. We're careful, but careful isn't perfect. One afternoon, during a yard break, a loose stone collapses into the tunnel. We hear it from the yard, just a dull thud. Our stomachs sink. That sounded like I know. Clovis says, already moving. Back inside, we rush to the chamber. The hole's partially caved in. Gerald is missing. No. Clovis drops to his knees. He was so close to retirement. We'll dig him out. I say no. Clovis whispers. We avenge him. We mourn him. Not in words, but by digging harder. By now, the tunnel stretches for meters, barely enough for one person to crawl through. We believe it leads to the forest slope behind the outer wall. There's a patch of moss-covered stone we've seen from the yard, always damp, always avoided. That's our target. Maximus finally speaks one night. You'll need distraction. We all freeze. He hasn't said more than 5 words in a row since I arrived. Distraction, I ask. He nods. Stocks, I'll volunteer. You'll get pelted, Ulrich warns. I like turnips. Maximus grunts. And just like that, we have a plan. 2 days later, Maximus picks a fight with Kevin over a sock and gets himself thrown into the stocks. Clovis makes a scene about the gross injustice of sock theft, buying us extra attention. While the guards are dealing with that, we disappear down the tunnel. It's narrow, damp, every inch scraped by hand. The walls shiver with each breath we take. If it collapses now, we're buried, but that doesn't matter. Forward is freedom. I lead Clovis behind me, then Ulrich, muttering prayers that sound like battle speeches. Rabbit somewhere near the back, whispering to Pebbles he brought for moral support. After 10 minutes of crawling, I see it. Light, faint, green, living. I push the last stone out of the wall, and suddenly, real, moving, pine-scented air. We emerge under the mossy slope just beyond the prison yard. It's a small clearing. Dense trees, twilight sky, and most importantly, no one in sight. We did it. Clovis collapses onto the grass, laughing. Gerald, you glorious splinter. Ulrich stares upward like he's never seen sky before. We're out. Rabbit releases a pebble into the moss. Your journey ends here. Regret. But we can't linger. We're not free. Not yet. We're escaped. And now, the real chase begins. We run until we can't. Until our lungs ache, our feet bleed, and our muscles scream louder than the guards probably will when they find our empty cell. The trees are thicker, hair-great, ancient things that crowd together like gossiping nobles. Roots tangle underfoot, branches claw at our clothes, and the deeper we go, the more the forest feels like it's swallowing us. Clovis is wheezing. Next time, he gasps. We tunnel into a bakery. Ulrich limps along, velvet cloak now reduced to glorified mulch. I was knighted under an oak tree, he says breathlessly. This is poetic, all so terrible. Rabbit leaps over a fallen log with the grace of someone who has never truly existed in just one dimension. Justice rides with us, he proclaims. No, Clovis pants. Justice is behind us, and she's probably armed. We stop in a hollow low ground surrounded by dense underbrush, hidden from view. For now, we need a plan. I say we had a plan. Clovis snaps. This is what comes after the plan. The flailing part. I think this is the plan B part. I correct him. No, plan B was cheese. Fair. Here's a real medieval wrinkle to consider. Escaped prisoners didn't just have to avoid guards. They had to survive without documentation, money, or shelter. Everyone knew everyone in towns, and strangers drew suspicion fast. Being caught again usually meant worse than prison. It meant branding, mutilation, or death. You weren't just an escapee, you were defying the system. Where are we even going? Ulrich asks, wiping mud from his face. There's a road, I say, pointing. I saw it once from the yard tower, leads west. Might take us to the river. Clovis nods, and rivers mean boats, and boats mean ... not here. Maximus appears from the trees behind us, silently chewing on something that might be moss. Wait, Maximus, I exclaim. How didn't get in the stocks? He grunts. Faked it, crawled after you. You're an enigma. He shrugs. Sock taught me. We rest for an hour, maybe less. It's hard to tell without the bell dictating your every move. Then we move again. West. We stay off the path. Every snapping twig feels like a trumpet. Every rustling leaf feels like betrayal. Rabbit insists the squirrels are watching us. They report back to the warden. He whispers. No, they don't. Clovis mutters. You don't know that. Rabbit insists. By dusk, the forest opens onto a hill. Below us, a small village. Smoke curls from chimneys. Lights glow softly in windows. The smell of roasted something drifts up the slope like a temptation. Risky, Clovis mutters, but maybe worth it. We need food. I say real food. And water, Ulrich adds. And possibly a disguise. Because we look like, well, prison soup. Clovis finishes. Can we trade for supplies? I ask. Clovis opens. His hand with what? We stare at a collection of worthless trinkets. A pebble, a broken comb, a rat-chewed scrap of velvet, and Gerald's kusona, twig with an attitude. Rabbit raises his arms. I can sing. No, Clovis, and I say, at the same time, I can. He insists. We believe you, Ulrich says diplomatically. We just don't want that right now. We decide on stealth. Clovis and I will sneak into the edge of the village, find something, bread, fruit, socks, whatever we can carry. The others wait in the trees. It's not much of a plan, but it's the only one we've got. We slide down the hill like ghosts who forgot how to haunt. Stick to the hedges, keep low. The first house is quiet, shutters drawn. A single candle flickers inside. Behind it, a chicken coop. Clovis grins. Blessed be the feathered. We slip in. The chickens stir but don't squawk. I grab eggs. Clovis pockets a sack of grain and a small loaf left on a stool. As we turn to go, we hear it, a bell. Not the execution bell, the alarm bell. Oh no. We run. Back up the hill, through the trees, past Rabbit and Ulrich and Maximus, shouting go. Number. One asks questions. We move like hunted things. And from behind us, voices rise. Torches light. The village is awake now. We've got minutes. Clovis gasps. We've got egg yolk all over the sack. I shout. You're yelling about eggs right now. Priorities. We reach a stream and follow it west, moving faster than I thought. Our bodies could. The egg sack rips. 2 eggs break. Rabbit mourns audibly. The sun dips low by full dark. We're deep into forest again. No sign of pursuit. Just breath and branches, and the sound of our hearts trying to escape without us. We collapse. Into a clearing. Silent. Breathing. Alive. Clovis breaks the silence first. That, he wheezes, was a very loud dinner. I nod, still gasping. Worth it. Rabbit curls up beside a tree and whispers to his last egg. You are the chosen one. Ulrich looks at all of us, filthy and laughing and broken. Believe I escaped a dungeon, he mutters, only to become part of this. Clovis grins. Welcome to the next prison. Freedom with no plan. And we laugh, because it's true, and because it's ridiculous, and because somehow it feels better than any cell ever could. Morning comes slow and golden. I wake to the smell of dirt and damp moss, and the chirping of birds that sound too enthusiastic for people who just outran a mob over 3 stolen eggs. My back aches, my ankles are sore, and my wrists bear the pale marks of weeks in chains. But there's no stone ceiling above me, only sky, and that's enough. Clovis is already awake, sharpening a stick with a rock and calling it a spear. Rabbit is rearranging his pebbles in the shape of a rabbit. Maximus is curled up with his sock like it's a lifelong companion. And Sir Ulrich, regal even in mud, is staring at a distant hill like he expects a rescue hawk to swoop down and airlift him home. We're free, but barely. Freedom, it turns out, is less soaring eagle and more hungry raccoon with a limp. We have no money, no papers, no destination. We're fugitives in a world that only tolerates the powerful and the predictable. We need a plan, Ulrich says again. It's his default phrase now. We need breakfast first, Clovis replies. That's my default. I offer half of the remaining egg. We split it 5 ways. A nobleman, a rat whisperer, 2 chronic liars, and a sock philosopher, huddled around. Half a chicken's effort. There's something poetic about that. All right, I say. Let's talk real plans. Clovis draws in the dirt with a stick. We're here, he marks an X rivers west. There's a ferry town beyond it, glow. Maybe a day's hike. Are we known there? Ulrich asks. Only if the jail has portraits. Do jails have portraits? Rabbit asks. I hope not, I mutter. The plan forms quickly. Head west, stick to the trees. Steal only if we must. Avoid roads, sleep in ditches. Trust no one. Speak less. It's not a heroic journey, but it's ours. Here's one last historical fact for the road. Many escaped prisoners didn't run home. They fled to borderlands, forests, monasteries, or ports anywhere outside the reach of the local lord's justice. Some joined mercenary bands. Some vanished into cities. A few became legends. Most just tried to live unnoticed. As we walk, I keep an eye out for guards, for gogs, for signs, but also for that feeling, that lightness, that deep, quiet hum of possibility. Clovis talks about opening a food stall in a swamp. Ulrich claims he'll write a book about all this. He titles it Mud and Glory. Rabbit hums a tune that may or may not summon squirrels. Maximus just walks, smiling faintly, and me. I remember the cell, the chains, the rats, the chair, the peephole that showed me a message, scratched in stone. He who listens escapes. I listened, I escaped, and now, as the sun rises higher, warming my shoulders and lighting the path ahead, I realize something. I'm not the same person who woke up on straw weeks ago, shackled and confused. That person was lost. This one, he's found something, not freedom. Exactly. Not yet, but movement. Direction. N. Maybe just, maybe dash hope. We reach a ridge by midday below us. The river. It glimmers like a blade in sunlight. Clovis lets out a low whistle. There she is. There's a bridge to the south, Ulrich says, and a dock further west. We split. I say to go south. 3 go west. Less attention. They nod. We've become a team. Strange, mismatched, occasionally moldy, but a team nonetheless. We clasp hands. No speeches, no goodbyes. Just nods. And then we walk. In 2 directions, into whatever comes next. And I smile, because even if it all ends tomorrow, we got out. We saw the sky. We remembered what it feels like to move without permission. To breathe, without waiting to be, without being owned. And maybe, just maybe, that's what freedom really is. So there you have it, a day, well, more like a journey as a medieval prisoner, from damp straw and rat politics to scratched codes and underground cheese economies, from hallucinated fungal weddings to a toothbrush named Gerald that carved our way to freedom. It was messy, loud, sometimes ridiculous, often grim, but it was real, or at least, as close as we can imagine it. This wasn't a romanticized dungeon crawl. It was the slow unraveling of identity inside stone walls. The way you learn to measure time in coughs and screams. The way you find friendship in the strangest corners over shared rations, whispered hopes, or mutual fear of spoon inspections. And when the moment came, when the tunnel opened and the sky spilled in, it wasn't triumph that washed over us. It was quiet, just a long, exhausted exhale. We weren't saved, we weren't heroes, but we were moving forward. And maybe, after all that time locked away, that's the only direction that matters. So tonight, as you lay in your warm bed-free breathing, clean moment for the ones who never got out, the ones history forgot, the ones who left only a mark on a stone or a whisper in the walls. They were here, we were here, and somewhere, Gerald is still digging. Good night, everyone.